Welcome to Tales Lab, where lying wives and sneaky girlfriends finally get exposed. From girls' trips that never happened to coworkers who are a little too friendly, we break down every red flag, messy receipt, and suspicious text with humor, shock, and just a little bit of petty. Expect wild stories, dramatic reactions, and satisfying karma as the truth comes crashing through the door. If you love relationship tea, plot twists, and seeing players get played, this channel is your new home. Every single chaotic, jaw-dropping, binge-worthy episode. Hit subscribe and never miss a fresh dose of exposed cheating. Don't forget to check our previous stories. Let's get into it. The cruelest thing my wife ever did was make me apologize to the man she was cheating with, right in front of our friends, then squeeze my hand like I should be grateful she let me stay. Here's how it happened. I'm Jalen Brooks, born and raised on the south side of Chicago, the kind of man who pays bills on time and calls his mother back the same day. I believed love was steady work, not a highlight reel. When I met Nia Harper, she felt like sunshine with a planner. Smart, funny, always moving. I thought we were building something solid. I didn't see the trap being assembled. I met Nia at a friend's game night in Dallas after I relocated for a logistics job. She walked in wearing a bright yellow dress and a grin that made people turn their heads without realizing. She teased me for alphabetizing the snack table. "You're the type who labels his chargers," she said, laughing. I said, "Only because I respect electricity." She laughed harder and tapped my shoulder like we'd known each other for years. That night we played spades, and she talked trash like it was a sport. When she lost, she blamed the energy in the room, then winked at me like I was the reason. Our early days were romantic in that real-life way. Cheap tacos, late-night grocery runs, music in the kitchen. She'd dance with a spatula like she was on stage. I pretend not to watch, but I was smiling the whole time. One Friday, I tried to impress her with homemade pasta, and I put salt instead of sugar in the sauce. She took one bite, paused, and said, "Baby, did you season this with the ocean?" I wanted to melt into the floor, but she laughed so hard she snorted. Then she kissed my cheek and ordered pizza like it was a rescue mission. I fell for her kindness. That's what hurts now. We got married in a small ceremony outside Houston, under white lights and oak trees. Nia cried when she said her vows, and I believed every tear meant forever. Our friends cheered. Her mom, Rochelle Harper, hugged me tight and said, You better treat my baby right." I promised I would. I'm in it. We took photos with everyone smiling, and afterward Nia slipped her hand into mine and whispered, "We're going to be unstoppable." I thought unstoppable meant teamwork. Later, I learned she meant unstoppable for her, and I was just the engine she planned to drive until it ran out of gas. The first year was mostly good. We built routines. Sunday mornings at a black-owned cafe in Dallas, her sweet tea, my black coffee, both of us splitting a biscuit like it was tradition. She called me Mr. Reliable. I called her Hurricane Nia because she moved through life like she had a soundtrack. When she had a bad day, I'd bring her flowers and she'd pretend to be annoyed, then take a picture anyway. At night, we'd watch old comedies, laughing until our stomachs hurt. If someone had told me those laughs would become weapons later, I would have called them bitter. Then Nia started saying the word brand like it was a religion. She wanted a lifestyle line, self-care planners, candles, motivational journals. I supported it. I paid for the first batch of samples, helped her compare shipping rates, even built a simple spreadsheet to track inventory. She rolled her eyes at the spreadsheet, but she used it. We joked that I was the boring CFO, and she was the creative genius. Sometimes the dynamic felt cute. Sometimes it felt like a warning. When I'd ask about expenses, she'd laugh like I was ruining the vibe. "Don't be stingy," she'd say, even when it was our rent money. The funny moments still happened, which is what made the shift confusing. Like the time she tried to film a morning routine video and knocked over a ring light, which felt like a defeated robot. I laughed so hard I cried. She stared at me, dead serious, then said, "This is why I can't have nice things." Married to a comedian. We laughed together, and I thought we were okay. But I started noticing how often she wanted the camera on and how often she wanted me off screen. She'd say, "Babe, you're not really the aesthetic." I'd smile like it was nothing. It wasn't nothing. Her friends changed too. New faces with shiny teeth and louder opinions. They'd come over and talk about soft men and provider energy like it was a contest. I'd be in the kitchen grilling chicken while they sat in the living room judging strangers on social media. Sometimes Nia would join in, laughing at jokes about husbands who don't level up. I'd walk in with a tray and she'd say, "Oh, here comes the working man," like I was staff at my own house. People laughed. I laughed too, because I didn't want to seem sensitive. But inside, it felt like a small door closing. Rochelle, my mother-in-law, got bolder as Nia's confidence grew. She'd visit from Houston and inspect our home like she was checking for dust and obedience. "Nia, I shouldn't be stressed," she'd say, staring at me like stress was my job description. If I cooked, Rochelle would taste the food and make a face like she was a food critic. One day, she said, "A man's supposed to lead." Then she looked at Nia and added, "And a woman's supposed to be happy." That was the whole equation to them. My labor, Nia's comfort. Nobody asked if I was happy. Nobody cared. Around that time, Dre Collins entered the picture. Nia introduced him as a networking friend, somebody who could help her with marketing connections. He was smooth, too smooth, like he practiced smiling in mirrors. He wore designer sneakers and talked like every sentence ended with applause. The first time he came over, he walked around our place, nodding like he was approving it. He called me bro, in that way people do when they don't really mean it. Nia laughed at everything he said, even the weak jokes. When I looked at her, she avoided my eyes like she was already rehearsing how to lie. I tried to be mature about it. I told myself I was being paranoid. Nia was ambitious. Of course she'd meet people. Still, Dre got comfortable fast. He started showing up without much notice. "We were in the area," Nia would say, as if Dallas was a small town. One night, I came home early and found Dre sitting at my kitchen island eating chips like he lived there. He looked up and said, "What's good?" like my presence was optional. Nia didn't jump or act surprised. She just said, "Babe, don't make it weird." That sentence hit me like a slap. I wasn't the one making it weird. The disrespect got more open, almost like a game. At a friend's birthday dinner in downtown Dallas, Dre made a comment about my job. "Logistics is cool," he said, drawing out the word cool like he was talking about a hobby. "But you know, real money is an influence." Nia laughed and touched his arm. I felt my stomach drop. One of our friends, Malik, raised his eyebrows like he noticed. But nobody said anything. I forced a smile and changed the topic. Later in the car, I told Nia it bothered me. She rolled her eyes. "You're insecure," she said. "Don't embarrass me by acting jealous." I heard the threat behind her words. That's how she shamed me. Quiet, sharp, and strategic. If I asked questions, she called me controlling. If I looked hurt, she called me dramatic. If I tried to set boundaries, she said I was blocking her blessings. One night, she told me, "You're the type of man women outgrow." She said it casually, like she was commenting on the weather. I slept on the edge of the bed, staring at the ceiling, trying to figure out when love turned into a performance review. The worst part was how she stayed cheerful in public. In private, she treated my feelings like clutter she wanted to throw out. But we still had romantic flashes that fooled me. We'd go to a jazz lounge, and she'd rest her head on my shoulder during a slow song. She'd squeeze my hand and whisper, "Thank you for everything." Those moments kept me hooked. I kept thinking, if I just do more, she'll come back to me. I booked a weekend trip to San Antonio, just the two of us, riverwalk, brunch, a silly souvenir photo booth. She laughed again, really laughed. She kissed my cheek and said, "This is why I married you." I didn't know she was also texting Dre from the hotel bathroom. I didn't find out until later, and when I did, it replayed in my mind like a cruel joke. The money started disappearing in ways that didn't make sense. Charges for production, consultations, brand strategy. When I asked, Nia sighed like I was a child. "It takes money to make money," she said. I suggested separate accounts so we could track expenses better. She got cold. "So you don't trust me?" she asked, loud enough for Rochelle to hear on speakerphone. Rochelle chimed in immediately. "A man who counts pennies doesn't deserve a wife like you." Nia smiled at the phone and said, "Exactly. I apologized just to end the fight." That's how I lived, apologizing to keep peace that never came. The humiliation peaked at a rooftop kickback in Dallas. String lights, loud music, red cups, people I'd shared holidays with. Nia had been acting distant all day, but she was affectionate in front of everyone, like she wanted an audience. Dre showed up wearing a fitted shirt, smelling like expensive cologne, and he walked straight to Nia like it was normal. They laughed too close. I tried to ignore it until Dre said, "Man, you got a lot of rules for somebody whose wife clearly wants somebody else." The circle went quiet for half a second. Then someone chuckled. Nia didn't defend me. She looked at me with flat eyes. She leaned in and whispered, "Apologize. Right now, where you can pack your stuff tonight." Her voice was calm, like she was giving directions. My face burned. I looked around at friends who suddenly found their cups fascinating. Nobody stepped in. Dre smirked, enjoying the power. My heart felt like it was trying to crawl out of my chest. I couldn't believe this was my life, my wife publicly putting me in my place. I apologized. I said, "My bad, Dre. I overreacted." The words tasted like metal. Nia smiled like she'd won. Dre nodded like I'd passed a test. And in that moment, something inside me cracked, quietly, completely. That night, Nia acted playful on the ride home, like the rooftop scene was just a funny story. "You were so serious," she giggled. "It wasn't that deep." I didn't laugh. At home, she tossed her heels off and said, "Don't be weird. You knew what you signed up for when you married me." Then she turned away from me in bed like I was a stranger. I lay there awake while she slept peacefully. The next morning, she posted pictures from the kickback, smiling big, Dre in the background like a shadow. I felt sick. I realized she wasn't making mistakes. She was making choices. I went through my days like I was underwater. At work, I stared at spreadsheets and pretended my chest wasn't heavy. At home, I moved around Nia like she was a sharp object. She kept calling me soft when I didn't laugh at her jokes. She told our friends I'd been moody. She acted like I was the problem. Dre kept popping up at dinners, at meetings, sometimes at my house when I got home. Every time I saw him, my stomach tightened. The betrayal wasn't only the cheating. It was the way she recruited my own circle to normalize it. I've been turned into a punchline, and I hated myself for participating. I didn't explode. I didn't expose her online. I didn't start screaming and throwing things. I got quiet and started paying attention. I pulled my credit report. I looked at account statements. I checked timestamps on payments. Patterns emerged like stains you can't unsee once you notice them. Certain charges hit right before Dre showed up. Certain transfers happened right after Nia had content days. I found messages on our shared tablet. Nothing explicit, but enough. Tell him to chill. He's trained. We'll be good after the next drop. My hand shook as I read them. She wasn't just cheating. She was running a setup, and I was the funding. I felt humiliation, rage, grief, then something colder, clarity. Here's the part that still sounds crazy when I say it out loud. I contacted Dre first. Not to fight him, to document him. I texted him like a defeated man. I said I wanted to keep the peace and asked what it would take for him to stop disrespecting me. He replied fast, arrogant, and casual. He named a number and added a laughing emoji like this was a game. I asked for his payment method. He sent it. I sent the money, clean, traceable, with a note that made it clear what it was for without being dramatic. My stomach twisted when I hit send. But I wasn't paying him to win him over. I was paying to turn his greed into evidence. While Nia kept performing like nothing was wrong, I moved like a man making an exit plan. I met with an attorney in Collin County during my lunch breaks. I learned what to document, what not to say, how to protect myself without doing anything reckless. I opened a new account. I redirected my direct deposit. I locked down my credit. I gathered receipts, screenshots, and timelines. I didn't tell a soul, not Malik, not the friends from game night, nobody. Because the same people who watched me apologize might war her if I blinked wrong. Nia kept taunting me, calling me Mr. Spreadsheet, like my careful nature was weakness. She didn't understand that careful is how I survive. At home, she tried to provoke reactions. She'd say, "You're lucky I'm still here." She'd leave her phone face up, letting it light up with Dre's name like a challenge. One evening, she cooked dinner, rare for her lately, and acted sweet, even romantic. She played our old playlist and swayed with me in the kitchen for 30 seconds. For a split second, I almost folded. Then she pulled back and said, smiling, "See? If you stop acting insecure, we can be fine." That's when I understood the romance wasn't love. It was control. She used affection like a leash. Tighten it, loosen it, until you forget you can walk away. I ate my food quietly and kept my plans to myself. The papers moved faster than she expected because my case wasn't built on drama. It was built on boring facts, temporary orders, financial separation, documented transfers, clear timelines. When the divorce filing was ready, I didn't announce it. I didn't threaten her. I simply arranged my life so she couldn't drain it anymore. The day she realized it was small and brutal, her car declined at a boutique in Dallas, and she called me furious. "What did you do?" she snapped. I kept my voice calm. "I protected myself," I said. She laughed, mean and loud, like I was joking. "You can't do anything without me," she said. No remorse, just contempt. That contempt is what made the next part land so hard. That evening she stormed into the house, heels clicking like gunshots. Rochelle was on speakerphone again, feeding her rage. Nia demanded I fix it, like I'd accidentally broken her toy. I told her there was nothing to fix. Her face twisted. "After everything I did for you," she said, like cheating was charity. Then she tried to shame me the way she always did, aiming for the soft spots. "You're going to be alone," she said. "You're boring. You're not a catch. Nobody wants a man who needs respect to function." Rochelle added, "A real man wouldn't do this to his wife." I felt my chest tighten, then settle. Their insults didn't hit the same anymore. They were just noise from people who never loved me. Dre tried to call me 2 days later, acting friendly. "Bro, Nia's tripping," he said. "She's doing too much." I realized he didn't care about her. He cared about the benefits. When I didn't respond the way he wanted, his tone changed. "Don't be petty," he said. That word, petty, coming from a man who took money to disrespect me, almost made me laugh. I kept the call short. After we hung up, I saved everything. The texts, the payment confirmation, the timestamps. Dre didn't know he'd already given me what I needed. Nia didn't know her whole setup depended on me staying ashamed. The moment I stopped being ashamed, the whole thing collapsed quietly. When Nia was served, she tried every tactic except accountability. She cried in front of other people, then cursed at me in private. She promised she'd destroy me, then asked if we could talk like adults. She told our friends I was unstable, then showed up at home asking for help with bills. She never once said sorry. She never once admitted what she'd done. She only adjusted her mask depending on who was watching. I didn't fight her in public. I didn't explain myself to the crowd that let me be humiliated. I let the process handle it. My revenge wasn't loud. It was leaving her with no leverage and no access. The funniest part, in a sad way, was watching how fast Dre disappeared when the money dried up. Nia kept acting like she was the prize, but prizes don't have to beg. She called him, and he stopped picking up. She posted glamorous pictures, but I could see the cracks, the forced smile, the new motivational quotes that were really threats at the universe. One night, she tried to bait me again, saying Dre was a real man who understood her. I just nodded. She looked confused, like she wanted tears, and got silence instead. That's when I saw fear flash across her face, quick and sharp, because she finally realized she couldn't move me anymore. Control addicts panic when the puppet cuts the strings. I moved quietly to Charlotte for a better job and a cleaner start. No big announcement. No victory lap. Just a new apartment, new routines, and peace that felt unfamiliar at first. I bought a used couch, set up my kitchen, and laughed alone the first time I realized nobody could insult me in my own home anymore. I reconnected with my mother in Chicago, visited more, listened more. I started sleeping through the night again. Months later, I heard through Malik, who apologized for not speaking up, that Nia was still telling the same story. That she was the victim, that I was controlling, that I couldn't handle a strong woman. Dre had moved on. Rochelle blamed everyone but Nia. That was their nature. No remorse, ever. The karma wasn't seeing her cry. The karma was watching her lose the only thing she worshipped. access. She built a setup on humiliation, and it died when I chose quiet self-respect over public arguments. My moral lesson is simple, and I learned it the hard way. Love without dignity becomes a cage. If someone needs to shame you to feel powerful, they don't love you, they manage you. And if your friends clap for your humiliation, they're not your friends. I didn't win by becoming famous or making a speech. I won by protecting my peace, letting paper speak, and rebuilding privately, steady, successful, and free. If you enjoyed the story, please like, comment, and share this video with your friends. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a powerful story drop.